Hello and welcome to the 12th wine of lockdown, 12 out of 12 live streams of the 12 wines of lockdown. If we haven't met before, my name is James Folland and I make videos for wine lovers to learn more about the world of wine. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Let me know what you're drinking tonight in the chat below. Tonight I am sipping on a non-alcoholic sangria that I made, and I'll be showing you the recipe that I took and I twisted and I changed to make it my own with what I could find at the shops. Did a little bit of essential shopping this afternoon to put this one together to bring this delicious drink here tonight for Sangria Saturday. Welcome to the live stream. Let me know what you're drinking in the chat below. I think you'll be able to buy everything that is listed in the ingredients for this recipe in Woolworths, because I pretty much just did. So we've got some water, some sipping on some water. Water's a good beverage. And I'll show you how this sangria, this non-alcoholic sangria, can be made. So I'll show you the base recipe now. Let's jump into it. So as we go over onto the base recipe for sangria, easy traditional red sangria. Easy, the traditional side of sangria is up for debate here. So this blogger who wrote this had the best sangria in Spain, yada, 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 but they like to work, sleep, siesta, have an evening tapas, drink good wine, and then do it all again the next day. And arguably, Spain's gift to the world is sangria, a fruity, lush, alcoholic beverage. But I've done the non-alcoholic twist here this evening. So, the origins of sangria, the earliest versions of sangria were believed to have originated more than 2,000 years ago when Romans, making their way through the Iberian Peninsula, planted vineyards along the way. And because drinking water was unsafe, it was often fortified with wine, spices, and herbs. The earliest versions of what we know as sangria were made in England and France in the 1800s, and sangria was eventually popularized after its formal arrival in the US at the 1964 World's Fair in New York. Despite its global popularity and common association with Spain, there is no official formula for sangria in Spain, and locals are more often known to enjoy a drink similar to sangria known as tinto de verano. So some Spaniards may enjoy sangria, it is more popular drink among the tourists. So let's get into it. So this recipe that I used as kind of the base, as the structure, tried to accomplish these below things: fruity, sweet, dry, lush, smooth, refreshing, and boozy. I dropped off the boozy and I made a non-alcoholic variety here this evening. So what does that mean? So there's many interpretations of it. So fruit, so I put in mine apples and oranges, some orange juice, some sweetener. I skipped the liquor, skipped the brandy, skipped the rum, and I put in a fruity red wine with 0 alcohol. Didn't do the ice, but I've got the rest of the jug here at home chilling in the fridge. So for this version, I went with brandy because as soon as I smelled it, I immediately thought this smells like sangria. But of course, if you'd rather use rum, be my guest. I skipped that. I put together this recipe here this evening. I've got a stray little piece of the apple there. 1 cup of ice to chill. So what I did, I mixed it up. I like to improvise on recipes. I did a full apple, no core, skin on as part of it. I did half a medium orange. I did 2 kind of tablespoons or teaspoons Actually, I did 2 teaspoons of raw sugar, and I did 1 part orange juice to 1 part rosé to 1 part. So I probably put a little bit of too much orange juice in there now that I look at this recipe. Probably should have gone lighter on the orange juice as part of this, because it was 3/4 of a cup of orange juice to 750 mils of a dry bottle of red wine. So I went with my non-alcoholic option here, going to the McWigan Zero. Let's see if they're selling that at Woolworths. Can you buy that at Woolworths online now these days? Yes, you can. So I picked up one of these. I went to the BWS next to the Woolworths, as well as McWigan. Just showing you the ingredients that went into my non-alcoholic sangria here this evening. It was a little bit of... they don't have it in their range. It's interesting. So I went with a little bit of a rosé. They have the McWigan Shiraz. Not the one I'm looking for. I got a McWigan Zero Shiraz. Picked it up next to from the BWS, next to the Woolies, to bring that home. So it was one of these. Let's get that picture open. I got a McWigan Zero Shiraz, got a McWigan Zero Rosé as part of this, and creaming soda flavored kombucha. That's an interesting combination. McWigan Zero Rosé as another part, and then the Shiraz, the rosé from McWigan Zero's range, gives it kind of the dryness to it to meet that element of what sangria is thought to be. And then I think I've probably in my recipe added a little bit too much orange juice, because I was kind of doing 1 part rosé, 1 part Shiraz, 1 part orange juice. I should have probably done 2 or 3 parts rosé, 3 parts Shiraz to maybe 1 part of orange juice here, looking at what is 3/4 of a cup. It's importance of reading measurements to understand what's going on there, and I will need that effectively in mass. 1,000 doesn't help that conversion. 3/4 of a cup, 2 grams, half a cup, 3/4 of a cup, so like less than 100 grams. So that was like meant to be a splash of orange juice there to a larger amount of wine. So I'm definitely going to have to mix that up and add some more of the rosé to the mix. I've also gone over the top here with the orange and the apple, and haven't added any ice yet. It's winter. I can just leave it in the fridge and be happy with that as part of the experience. So how does that sound for a sangria? I didn't quite have the mason jar to present it in. Just got a nice little cup. I had a little garnish on it earlier. So kind of this picture compared to this glass. I can see that if I can get my camera to focus on that glass instead of me. And get it to focus on the glass instead of me, that it's a lot more cloudy here in this glass compared to the photo. There was pulp in the orange juice that I used, so that means it wasn't quite as good as it is. So potentially there's room to put that through a strainer, get rid of the pulp out or something, I know what I'm going to do. Chemex, put it through my Chemex. Put the filter on there, pour it through, pour it over ice, get rid of all the stuff on the inside, get rid of all that pulp, bring that out. So that means my kind of the refreshing nature of it should be more prominent. And then you're dealing with less of the tang of the pulp that goes with it as well. So I think that's how I'm gonna level this one up for the next time I do it. When I go back for the next glass, when I go back for the next batch, mix it up, get rid of the pulp. What do you think? How does that sound? Let me know in the chat below. Let me know if you have any questions about sangria that we can help answer here tonight, doing the 12th wine of live streaming. And I am looking forward to football coming home on Monday night. I'll do a special 13th live stream for that, which is coming up. I'm definitely going and put too much orange juice in this from tasting it. But I think it hit the mark. Crisp, refreshing, got the dryness to it. I think the rosé and the Shiraz balance themselves out there with knowing the McWilliam range. Haven't necessarily popped open a Grenache, but let's dive in a little bit more to the history of the sangria. History of sangria, everything you didn't know about sangria, food and wine. So let's jump into that. The fine wine cognoscenti might sometimes turn their vino-sniffling noses up the thought of sangria, a combination of wine and fruit that aims for refreshment and fun over complexity and haughtiness. So sangria would be better on a hot summer's day or a nice warm spring day, less suited for winter. That's a shame, because sangria is not only pure party material, but also has a rich history of its own and enough variation to please just about any palate. If you doubt its seriousness, bear in mind that just as there are specific stemware designs for wines made for certain grape varieties and in different regions, sangria now has its own dedicated glasses. That's impressive. Sangria's origins probably date back to the Middle Ages, during a time when water was unhealthy to drink and drinking fermented beverages carried a much lower risk of causing illness. During this time, people would mix wine, which was much lighter and less potent than what we use today, with spices such as cinnamon. Sangria is the Spanish term for a mix of fruit and wine that became popular in Europe in the subsequent centuries, and the drink emerged on the American culinary radar when it was served in New York at the Spanish World area during the 1964 World's Fair. The word sangria is much more serious than the drink itself. It comes from the Latin word for blood, thanks to the original sangria's reddish hue and a result of red wine first used to make it. Since then, various European countries and hundreds of restaurants have created their own variations on the sangria theme. Spain alone offers quite a few traditional options based on region, with sparkling recipes coming from the areas that produce cava, for example. While you can buy high-quality, ready-made sangrias, it's also a lot of fun to start with a wine that you enjoy and your favorite fruits and spices and take a shot at making your own. For wine lovers, here are some suggestions for getting into the sangria groove based on wine type. I think what mulled wine's another one that I should try. That could be another future episode. future video, how to make mulled wine. The traditional Spanish version of sangria utilizes wine made from Tempranillo. Got some Tempranillo. Didn't use it tonight. A grape responsible for the famous red wines of the country's Rioja region. You can substitute your own favorite in place of Rioja. I'm still not sure how to pronounce that word. I've got to go look that one up. In just about any red wine sangria recipe, just keep in mind... Oh, getting an ad in the middle of my article. Oof. Save this article for later. No thanks. I want to just keep reading the article, not be interrupted by it. Any sangria, just keep in mind that not all red wines will take to a sangria mix equally well. For a more drinkable sangria concoction, look for dry red wines that are reasonably priced and tasty and offer simple fruit-driven flavors and aromas. It's best to avoid older red wines, which are usually too delicate for mixing. Tannic reds, which might make the sangria taste astringent. The tannins can taste not particularly nice when they are chilled, is a reason behind that. And overly complex wines, which are often more expensive and usually best left to be consumed on their own or paired with a meal rather than having their interesting aromas and flavors mixed away. So, with this, if you were to make your own sangria, if you were to go out and buy a bottle of wine to make your own sangria, I would recommend don't spend over $30 on your bottle of wine. If you're going over that $30 price point, or even the $25 price point for a bottle of wine, you probably don't want to mix it in with sangria. Are there certain wines that excel after being heated? It's a great question. I know mead is not technically a wine. It's a fermented honey. So that's one option that would work well heated. I've got 2 wines to pour down the sink. I opened a 1996 Cabernet Sauvignon that just tasted dead. The aging process has not been kind to it. The balance of fruit level and tannin were out of whack, so it kind of tasted really muted for a red wine. A bit boring, a bit bland, not particularly nice. That one's going down the sink. And the other one that I have was a 2015 Cabernet Sauvignon that I was talking about a bit on the stream. I was licking my lips, going a bit tannic, a bit prickly, a bit overpowering. And I think that one also is going down the sink. My wife kindly cooked me some steak tonight, and I paired that steak that was delicious with the tannic wine, that Cabernet Sauvignon from 2015 from the Mudgee region, and it was a bit so-so. I'm not really a fan of that. The tannin kind of balanced out after it got a little bit of air. I'll probably have another swish and spit just to see and check and confirm that one's going down the sink. But I think I'm putting 2 bottles of wine down the sink here tonight because life is too short. I'll cut back to the camera for this one for emphasis. Life is too short to drink bad wine. If you don't like it, do something else with it. Pour it down the sink, put it into a saucepan, boil off the alcohol, make it into bread. Get creative. Use it as some way to, I don't know, dye a shirt. Have a wine tie-dye white shirt or something. If you don't like the red wine, get creative with it, but don't waste your taste buds on bad wine if you don't enjoy drinking it. But let's hop back in. Oh, let's go on one more tangent. I saw the comment about I should have a podcast or I'd make a good podcast. Well, if you were to look up yourselves, Kitchen Conversations with James and Rama, there is a podcast. There's a podcast where I chat to a colleague from work. There's 31 episodes currently published. We started this podcast whilst we were in isolation. So if you are interested, feel free to check that one out. I've all available on all good podcasting platforms. I probably have not been as disciplined about uploading to YouTube, but there are some episodes there. If you wanted to check out the Kitchen Conversations podcast with James and Rama, Kitchen Conversations is a separate channel, but I sit there, do a Zoom call with my friend Rama and chat about trying to start an online business and what that looks like, and just any other random questions that we come up along the way. And we sit there and we chat for about 15 minutes to half an hour, depending on how much time we have, as part of Kitchen Conversations. And the idea for Kitchen Conversations came about from thinking about, hey, I should probably mute the audio on this one, just because otherwise it captures over. Oh, I went to a different YouTube video here. So thinking about those, there's the Kitchen Conversation podcast available on all good podcasting platforms. I use Anchor to record and upload this. So Kitchen Conversations, if you wanted an example of that on Apple. I'm a bit biased here. Towards Apple. But you could subscribe to Kitchen Conversations with James and Rama if you wanted to. We did an episode of cryptocurrency, which was a lot of fun as part of this. But then let's end that tangent and jump back in to sangria as we think about this. So there's red sangria. I haven't made a white sangria before, but there's also white sangria, so you can use a white wine. Interestingly, it's actually a bit harder to find the right white wine and fruit combination for a good sangria. This is because white wines tend to show their fruitier side more. So you will need to pay special attention to what grapes are used in the white wine sangria recipe if you are preparing. For example, a Sauvignon Blanc that's jumping with citrus aromas might not meld well with a sangria recipe that calls for a lot of lemon and lime, as the total citrus and acidity make the sangria less appealing overall. So this is talking about the balance of the taste. So the balance of the acid, the balance of the citrus when you're mixing the wine with the fruit. You don't want it to come together and be overpowering. You don't want the wine to push you over with too much flavor. You don't want the wine to push you over with too much acid when you drink it, when you bring those two things together. So you want to be considerate about how you make the sangria come together. So when you think about the white wine sangria, you often need to be a lot more careful with how you mix and you balance the fruit with the wine. So you'll need to experiment a bit, but a lighter unoaked Chardonnay may do well. Would be a good use for Chardonnays. That could be my backup plan for Chardonnays. If I don't like the Chardonnay, if I ever get a Chardonnay, make the Chardonnay into a sangria, transform it, give it a second chance. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. When McWigan's wine subscription gives you Chardonnays, turn them into sangria. Coin a new phrase there. As do Chenin Blanc wines. As with red wine sangria recipes, you should aim for simple and tasty and avoid older white wines, expensive and complex white wines, and fuller-bodied white wines like oaked Chardonnay. Rosé wines. So we went into rosé wines. My non-alcoholic sangria here that I'm drinking this evening is actually a blend of a non-alcoholic Shiraz and a non-alcoholic rosé. So I've put those two together to see how those go and what the experience is like. So with this plethora of excellent dry rosé wines available, don't overlook using a pink wine for your sangria. These have the added benefit of creating some naturally beautiful color combinations for the resulting drinking. Given that rosés can be found in every pink hue from light salmon to blood red, Not surprisingly, given the lighter red berry flavors and aromas presented by many rosés, this wine tends to do the best in sangria recipes that include raspberries, cranberries, and peaches as the main fruit ingredients. That would be inspirational. My wife is a big fan of raspberries, so to find a raspberry strawberry style sangria that brings those things together and is delicious for a summer day could be a genius pairing. There's also some things with sparkling wine sangrias. I'm not sure about this one because the sparkling wines in a sangria, you lose the bubbles, and the big part of why you have a sparkling wine is the bubbles as part of that. So if you're considering giving your sangria a vivacious kick, try using a sparkling wine in the recipe instead of a still wine. Just as with still wines, simple and fruity options will work best. Think Spanish Cava or Italian Prosecco, both of which are good value priced options. Most sparkling wines will work in sangria recipes that call for white wines, and rosé bubblies can be substituted in sangria. Recipes that include rosé still wines. Rosé bubbles can be substituted in sangria recipes. Yeah, I read that right. The key to using sparkling wine in sangria isn't so much the choice of bubbly as it is how you prepare the recipe. Many sangria recipes specify soaking the ingredients for an extended period. While that will help integrate the flavors in the sangria, an extended soak will be the murder on sparkling wines. It will cause the bubbles to dissipate. So in this case, it's best to let all the other ingredients combine and then open and add that sparkling wine just before serving. So you only top up the bubbles just before it's ready to go, only just before it is ready for action. And dessert wines. This will be an interesting category. I've recently put 6 dessert wines up for auction because it was sitting there taking up space and I was not drinking them. And if we go off on a detour to go off and any wines I would avoid even if it was free. Passion Pop. Passion Pop is a wine that I am not a fan of. I'm not a fan of passion fruit, so to have passion fruit in wine, and where Passion Pop sits, literally the only thing this wine is good for is a cheap wine to pop a cork on, and it's not even a proper cork. It was this plastic thing in the end last time I tried it. I did a fun little video where I did a blind tasting of Passion Pop versus Chardonnay, champagne. And I opened the bottles, got friends to pour them for me, put a face mask over my eyes to be blindfolded, and I tried to guess which wine was which blind. So that was the last time I had Passion Pop, and I'm hoping that'll be the last time I'll drink it to the day I pass away. I'm not a fan of Passion Pop at all. I once took it to a party for the fun of popping a cork for a cheap bottle when I was younger. And that friend saved it for me for a year. They put some alfoil, some aluminium foil over it. And when I came to the next New Year's party, they'd saved it carefully and they had left me half a bottle of Passion Pop from the previous year. The bubbles were gone. And I was like, I just tipped it out and put it in the recycling. Passion Pop is not a wine that needs to be saved for a year. $4.95. Best to tip that one out and put it into the recycling. And to get back into the sangria, if I can find the tab that I was on as part of that as we get up to the dessert wine. But no, I have not heard of the Belgian Balance Siphon. I haven't heard of that one before. Passion Pop is like my mortal enemy. I'm not a fan of passion fruit at all. There's some Sauvignon Blancs with stone fruit notes that have a hint of passion fruit that I prefer to stay away from. I can appreciate the passion fruit elements. I can recognize that might be what the style that they're going for, but I don't necessarily enjoy it. So when you make passion pop and your wine is driven by flavors of passion fruit and bubbles, ooh, it's not a nice experience. Try it once, be done with it, would be my advice. Don't spend time dwelling on passion pop. There's better sparkling wines out there. So looking at dessert wine sangria. Sweet wines might not seem like a winning sangria option, but with a little careful planning, a dessert sipper can produce a tasty and memorable mix. The trick? Look for simple, fruity, sweet wines that aren't pushing the sugar levels or alcohol content. Fortified wines like Port, Madeira, and Masala, while excellent for some mixed drinks, are best avoided here. To maximize your chances of a winning sangria combination when using a sweeter wine, look for recipes that call for fruit with a lot of mouth-puckering acidity, such as pomegranates, lemons, oranges, and limes. So looking at what that means is, so when the wine is sweeter, you want to amp up the acidity to give the sweetness the balance. So that's another example of balancing out the flavor in the wine in a similar reason to the white wine. You don't want to put too much acid in it, because if the white wine is already acidic, you don't want to make it overpowering. But if it's really sweet, you want to make sure the acidity balances that out. So the extra jolt of acidity will help to counteract the sugar in the sweet wine, making the sangria taste a little drier overall and improving the sense of balance of the various ingredients whilst you are drinking it. So whether you choose to use red, white, rosé, sparkling, or dessert wine in your sangria, the process of making and drinking this versatile drink is a great way to celebrate the warming weather and a different, more party-orientated take on wine this spring and summer. So is it a common thing to put ice in wine? No. If you put ice in wine, chances are you're watering it down. Some people would see putting ice in wine as a faux pas, a piece of etiquette that's bad. Where in summer though, like in summer in Australia, if it's a 40-degree day outside and you want to keep your wine chilled, go for it. I wouldn't recommend doing it for an expensive bottle of wine, but it's a $20 bottle of wine. Put the ice on it if it's a 40-degree day outside, because you want to make sure you're enjoying your white wine cold, but also be mindful that it'll water down the flavor of the white wine as well. I'd say always best to avoid putting ice cubes in red wine. I can't really ever see the need to put ice cubes in red wine. Sangria is probably the only one, but why you shouldn't put ice cubes in wine. So here's one. Why you should never add. Simply put, adding any ice to your glass of red wine prevents the chemicals from escaping into the air and give the wine the taste that it's intended to have. So sometimes chilling a wine takes the edge off its flavor. So a handy hint is load up a wine you don't like and you're trying to drink politely with ice. It takes the edge off the flavor, so it mutes the flavor down. So the cold delivered by the ice cubes will cause the wine to quickly lose its taste. So that's the one thing you need to be careful of. You want to be able to have a chilled wine. The ideal thing is to find the ways to keep your wine cool in summer. It's best to try and avoid putting ice cubes in it, but if it's a 40-degree day outside, go for it. Keep that wine chilled. Just try and avoid putting it in red wine. Let's have another look a little bit about the history. The 1964 World Fair is coming up consistently as part of where it's based. The sangria is based on the traditional red wine punch Popular across Europe for hundreds of years, the punch base would be a claret. Claret is a British term for Bordeaux wine from Bordeaux, France. This red wine is traditionally made from a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot. Brandy and fruit would be added to the red wine punch for flavor. In the 1700s and 1800s, claret cup punch would be found at parties of all sizes. This would be the drink of choice for Jane Austen heroines, for example. Going back even further in time, Hippocras is a well-documented drink concoction enjoyed in the Middle Ages. This was traditionally a wine with various spices added in, ginger, cinnamon, so on. Why the emphasis on wine? Remember that until modern times, water was often unsafe to drink. People would bathe in it, wash their horses in it, and so on. Milk was considered a baby food only. That meant, even for toddlers, the only safe liquid to drink had at least some alcohol in it. Alcohol would take care of any bacteria in the drink, and most households made some wine from fruits and berries in that area. It was very natural to liven things up by adding more spices, fruits, and other items to the wine to give it a different flavor. So this is like the Middle Ages version of infused lemon water, because the water wasn't safe to drink. They added spices to mix up things, to quite literally spice things up with their wines. So looking more specifically at Spain, this region was actively planted with vineyards by the Romans when they swept through about 200 BC. A very active wine shipping trade promptly began, with the beautiful wines of Spain supplying much of Rome's drinking desires. Red grapes grew here very well and have been enjoyed ever since. The locals name their wine punches in all their varieties as sangria. And sangria is traditionally a red wine punch. Spanish people from all walks of life enjoy this drink, creating it primarily with Rioja and other Spanish reds. Sangria can also be made with white wines. With white wines, the sangria is known as Sangria Bianco, so that's white sangria. The Cava, Spanish sparkling wine producing area, soon created a sparkling white version. In the south of Spain is often called Zura. The version of sangria is created with peach or nectarine. That's something new. I didn't know that. Oh, that's a great question. Would I say Italy have the best wine grapes? Let me come back to that one. Sangria is typically created from red wine, fruit juices, soda water, fruit, and sometimes brandy. When making your own sangria, use good quality wine, and if all possible, let it chill overnight. This lets the fruit flavors blend into the drink. If you can, use Rioja to the authentic Spanish flavor, but definitely choose something you like. You're the one drinking it. In the morning, pour your sangria into a pitcher full of ice cubes, garnish with fresh fruit, and enjoy. Traditional sangria pitchers have a pinched lip so that the fruit and the other solids do not plop into the glass and splash. Every restaurant has its own sangria recipe, typically a mix of wine, brandy, and fresh fruits served over ice. It's one of the most individualistic drinks on the market. Don't just buy a mix at the store, have fun and create your own. So the appeal of sangria is you can take your favorite wine, your favorite fruits, and put them all together and start experimenting. You can make and tweak it to the tastes, your preferred tastes, and see how that experience goes, bringing all those flavors together. And if you're enjoying hearing me talk about sangria here tonight, make sure you tap that like button. It's good for the YouTube algorithm, so it can be shared with other people who are interested in Sangria Saturday. And let's get into that question of, would you say Italy have the best wine grapes? Italy have some very distinct varieties. I think straight away Sangiovese, Chianti, Super Tuscan wines, Nebbiolo that go into Barolo, Barbaresco. They do some really interesting things there. And more people are speculating with climate change that they want to plant drought-resistant grapes. as part of preventing and the seasonality in Australia that comes with dry drought seasons. They want to plant wines from Italy that have a track record of success growing in drought-like conditions. So over the next decade or two, I'm speculating you're going to be seeing more and more and more Italian grape varieties being grown in Australia with great success, which is something I'm really excited about. I've got some Nebbiolo from a winemaker in the Southern Highlands that is in its pre-release stage, so getting an early glimpse of what it looks like for a wine to go through something called bottle shock, when the fruit flavors haven't yet settled down into the bottle after it's been pulled out of the barrel. So imagine tasting like a wine and it tastes like Ribena on steroids because it hasn't fully kind of finished and hasn't fully settled down. I had the fortune of trying that recently with a YouTube video coming soon. I'm still editing the footage for that. I went up to the Hunter Valley to visit Thomas Wines to do a vertical tasting 12 different vintages, 12 different years of Shiraz, and they pulled out, I think, the 2019 Shiraz from barrel for us to taste, which was an exciting experience, and it tasted like Ribena on steroids as part of that experience. And there's also a sangria glass that Riedel recommends. Let's have a look at that. So the glassware can be something that informs how you consume wine. Riedel, for the inconvenience, Riedel will do a variety of wine glasses. The wine glass shape is meant to enhance the sensory experience that goes with the drinking of the wine. Drink specific glassware. Do they still have the sangria option up there? Rocks, glasses, all purposes, mixing sours, highballs. So each glass is meant to serve some kind of purpose. So when someone was asking me that question about whiskey the other night, you can get a glass here from Riedel that is expertly sized for ice to be able to make a cocktail to pour it over as part of that and optimize how that all comes together. And multiple different ways to put sangria together. So let me know. Do you have any questions? Do you have any more questions? Which country have the best wine production quality, taste, and variety? I almost want to say Australia's up there, but one thing I learned recently, Californian wine versus Australia. So in terms of like volume, I was reading about the volume of California wines that they're producing. It's very much company based on the wines, but in terms of just like sheer volume, I think California produces a substantial amount of the world's wine from an article I was reading the other day. I don't know, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me see if I can find the article that I was reading about Californian wine, but they were producing an absolutely like huge amount compared to what you would see from the whole of Australia. The one state of California was punching well and truly above its weight when you think about it. And have I found it? Yeah, here we go. So the conjecture here was, to answer the question about volume, is you can't talk about wine without talking about Californian wine country. If the state of California was its own country, it would be the fourth largest producer of wine in the world. The whole state of California produces almost 30% more than all of Australia. This whole state, let me say that again for emphasis. The whole state of California produces almost 30% more wine than all of Australia, and 90% of the wine produced within the United States. So it is doing a huge amount of heavy lifting, California, in terms of the state and the place, and that is just one of the regions in America. Napa Valley in California is particularly well known for its Cabernet Sauvignon, but in terms of the best wine production, quality, taste, and variety, is very much company based. There's so much diversity to choose from. You have wineries that have reputations for producing quality wines year after year after year. And one of the guides that I like to use is the Langton's classification for understanding the quality of a wine. And the classification explained is what I'm looking for here. So the Langton's classification is something that is kind of like the honor roll of fine Australian wine. So it talks about the highest kind of quality, the premier wine. So everyone wants to drink wine, great wine, and the classification is renowned internationally for setting the benchmark for Australia's finest wines. So you have this tiered system that is used. It's also based on how wines resell at auction in the secondary market. So you have the 3 tiers: exceptional, outstanding, and excellent as part of this. So the exceptional wines are the most highly prized of all Australian wines, representing generations of effort and character and place. Outstanding is the best of Australian winemaking practices, vineyard provenance, and regional voice. And excellent are Australian wines with consistent merit, steadfast, popular, and expressive. I can only hope that I age like a fine, fine wine. So you can probably find quite a few bargains down here in that excellent category. So like the De Bortoli No 1 Botrytis is one that's sitting in the fridge at home at the moment. It's very much more affordable. You get that one for under $40. That's the Noble one. Noble one, the Bortoli. So like you're getting that, a bottle of that, you can find it for under $40. Getting a 375ml bottle, which is standard for dessert wines. They have some great value in amongst this here, the Lakes Folly Cabernet blend, the Semillon from Mount Pleasant, the Morris O'Shea Shiraz. This is the bin I'm opening when football's coming home. I'm opening, and I'm planning to open a 2013 bin 28 Kalimna Shiraz. I found a bargain on that. Italy is coming, Rome. I guess I'll have to, if Italy wins, I guess I'll have to open maybe a Nebbiolo in condolence. But what I'm looking forward to seeing football coming home, and I'm looking forward to opening a 2018 Kalimna Shiraz from the bin 28 from Penfolds. It's good that you're just joking. England all the way, bringing it home. If Italy wins, I have to drink a passion pot. I have to bring a bottle, bring myself a box of tissues to cry as well. Italy win. It'd be a good excuse to go get out of the house that day as well. The Penfolds Bin 28 is a showcase for warm climate Australian Shiraz, ripe, robust, and generously flavoured. First made in 1959, Bin 28 is named after the famous Barossa Valley Kalimna vineyard purchased by Penfolds in 1945 and from which this wine was originally sourced. Today, Bin 28 is a multi-regional multi-vineyard blend with the Barossa Valley always well represented, providing a substantial proportion of fruit for this vintage. It spent 12 months in American oak, but it is all about the saturated black fruits and licorice at the steering wheel of this multi-layered, full-body Shiraz. And it would be really interesting to see where this tasting book ranks it. One of my preferences is to go through Halliday's Wine Companion for this, or go to Penfold's Tasting Notes as well to be able to unpack what is going there. Vivino is a good app. I think I picked this wine up from $35 from Dan Murphy's. Best value for money Australian Shiraz wines. I'm pretty sure I picked this one up for $35. It was a bargain when I saw it. Could not help myself as part of picking that wine up. I'm going to accept all the cookies. I'm going to go back in. Bin Kalimna tasting notes. Bin 28 Kalimna Shiraz. Yep, here is the history of the tasting notes. And let's go straight to the Penfold source to see, is there a certain way to age and hold wine? Yes. You ideally want to sell a wine in a temperature-controlled environment that sits between 12 degrees Celsius and 14 degrees Celsius. And when your wine has a cork, you want to make sure that there is enough humidity so the cork does not dry out, that the wine doesn't leak and go bad. So the place that you sell a wine is incredibly important for helping it to age well and develop well. You don't want to store your wine near temperatures that fluctuate or a heat source. So let's read this about. This is the one I'm hoping to open, the Bin 28, when England brings it home. Let's see football come home. I'm wanting to see that England's going to bring it home and that football is coming home. It's 100% Shiraz, blended from Barossa Valley, McLaren Vale, Pathway, and Langton Creek. And vintage conditions and vintage reports also help shape the wine as well and what's going on there. So after a dry South Australian winter reminiscent of 2006, vines were in water deficit at the beginning of spring and therefore became accustomed to dry conditions quite early. Early bud burst was noticeable across many regions, and windy conditions during flowering were in some regions responsible for variable fruit set and lower than average yields come vintage. Dry spring conditions explained canopy growth and low yields, becoming typical of the 2013 growing season. Warm days were dispersed throughout October, November, and early January, contributing to an early start to the 2013 harvest and a short condensed vintage. Dry and warm conditions coupled with the lower than average yields resulted in Shiraz showing strong structural tannins, wines of great intensity, and encouraging flavour. So it's nose, so that's when you smell it. Classic dark, a black aromatic theme, graphite flint, char, black jelly bean, a sensitive yet apparent veil of oak, ever so shy, compliant. Scents from the baker, Christmas pudding replete with brandy and something soaked currants, and from the chef, roasted meats, douche pan scrapings. And the palate, the taste on the tongue is set to be full and expansive. an immersion of flavor, saturation, and textural continuum across the palate. Mouth coating, sweet tannins, and balanced acidity, never confronted by any threat of new oak. Black olive and chocolate notes resonate with an abundance of fruit, plum, prune, blackberries, and blueberries. Persistent length and flavor, finishing firm and assertive. So, how do wines get their flavors and aromas? So, this is a little bit of fun science. When you think about a banana, get a banana, you could scientifically analyze and pull out what that flavonoid is for a banana. And you could take that flavonoid and you could find that in other places and be like, yep, that's banana flavor. Grapes are the only fruit that produces flavonoids that you find in other fruits. So grapes produce their own flavonoids and a variety of different ones. And because of that unique characteristic about grapes is when you make a wine, you bring a wine together, you can see little aspects of different types of fruits. You can associate that wine with different flavors in other places to be able to describe it with these different flavors and different aromas when you smell it. So that's why you might see a Pinot Noir is more strawberry, whereas you go for maybe like a Shiraz, more kind of red fruits that are coming forward there, whereas a Cabernet Sauvignon you get more black fruits in terms of the smell or the taste in different ways based on how it all comes together. And you get to see a little bit of that when it's here. So black fruit notes of blackberry plum are recognized here. You get some oaky notes that give you kind of oak, vanilla, and chocolate. That was coming from the oak reacting with the wine. And so these black fruit comes from the blackberry, blackcurrant, plum, blueberry. So I'd go looking for the blue plum and the blackberry when I taste this most properly. The drink now Grange. Blackberry fruit, pastils, pepper, Satsuma plum, coconut butter, dark fruit, licorice, brooding back end. So people are a big fan of what Penfolds is putting out, partly because of their branding. So then when you get back to the cellaring and thinking about that, this one is set to be cellared between 2017 and 2032. And here we are about in the middle of that range at 2021. So how can anyone enjoy black licorice? The good thing is, and the good news is, I don't like licorice, but I find wines that are described as licorice that it's not as overpowering as real licorice. So hold that hope out yet for when you first start tasting a variety of different red wines. So I wouldn't want to put any of these kind of wines into this is wine is not wine you'd want to put into a sangria. This is wine you'd want to not put into a sangria. These are wines you want to enjoy for their quality, their distinctiveness as part of that experience. I also think about in terms of tastings, I'm a big fan of Shiraz. I also picked up some Bin 150 at Marananga Shiraz. I've got a dozen bottles of those in the cellar, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this one evolves over time. I think from memory, this one was described as more kind of mocha. There's more mocha going on. Yeah, here we go. The nose of freshly ground coffee, clove and juniper redress a regional Barossa association. So many Epicurean link complexities: star anise, orange zest, roast duck, balsamic glazed beetroot, olive tapenade, black pudding, but it's Shiraz. So this wine is great. I'm looking forward to holding bottles well and truly out till 2035 to see how this wine enjoys over time. And no, the miso does not enjoy coffee. I once made the mistake of buying like a $50, or I once committed to buying a $50 bag of beans for like 250 grams because it was a sweeter style coffee. I think lighter roast, honey wash, because it tasted sweeter in the filter thing. And I tried to add sugar to get her to like it, get her off the Coca-Cola. No success. Still working on the red wines as well, and I'm still working on the coffee, but we're not near there yet. We've got decades to go. Playing the long game there, trying to persuade to taste and enjoy red wine and coffee, some of the finer, more complex things in life. So there's some of the wines that I've currently got in my cellar. These are also examples of wines you would not want to put into a sangria. I just realized that whole time I think I was on the camera angle and not the screen share with looking at those notes. So I was pulling out notes from like the Barossa, from the website, the Bin 150 Marinang Shiraz, going through those about what the vintage report was, the color, the nose, the smells, the palate, and looking at the drinking and the peak drinking as part of this experience. Yeah, let me know if you have any more questions in the chat below. If you're watching this on the replay, let me know what sangria you want me to make next. I currently made a red sangria. I'm thinking about doing a white sangria, maybe a sparkling sangria, maybe a sweet sangria. Let me know what sangria I should look at making next. I think I'll be doing another video as well about how I made this non-alcoholic sangria and share that recipe with people. I might even write that one up on my blog as well. So thank you for tuning in to the 12 Wines of Lockdown series. We've done 12 out of 12 live streams. I'm going to be streaming again Monday, 8 p.m. because football's coming home. Going to celebrate that football's coming home. We might do a little bit of English football trivia. We might do a little bit of English wine. We might look at what wines England produces. Oh, that's a great question. Would I prefer to drink passion pop or beer? Oh, that's a tough one. I'm not a fan of beer. Do I get to choose the beer? If I got to choose the beer, I could roll the hand and choose a beer that's better than passion pop. It's like two bad options. But yeah, up England. Yeah, England. I'd definitely avoid. Oh, I don't think I've ever had a VB. Ever. I think I'd pick passion pop, the enemy that I know, than rather try a VB. Passion pop is the foe that I know. And I'd go with that if I had to pick between VB and passion pop. That'd be a disappointing day if I had to pick between those two options. But thank you for tuning in to the 12 Wines of Lockdown. Let me know in the comments below what else I could be using as topics for streams, questions that I could be answering. I will be looking at, maybe it was a bad batch. Maybe it was a bad batch, but I don't want to necessarily go back and try it and see if it was. You can get bad bottles of wine though. It's a true thing. You can get bad wines or bad bottles of a wine, depending on how it was stored, if it was damaged by sunlight. But we'll also be looking at starting up and bringing in Wine Wednesday. I'll be looking at doing live streams on Wednesday. I'm not sure if I can keep up one stream a week. I might be able to do one Wine Wednesday a month, but I'll be looking at finding a time to live stream on Wednesdays. I'll try and schedule those advance on YouTube so you can set a reminder as part of that to keep up with Wine Wednesdays. I'll be aiming to go live 8 p.m. on Wednesdays to keep up the stream and keep up the streams, and we'll see what happens there. But keep streaming. I need questions to answer. So I'm excited for Wine Wednesday. Let me know in the chat if you're excited for Wine Wednesday. I see one person's excited for Wine Wednesday, but would love to hear everyone else. Should I change up the jazz music? Do you like the jazz music? Should I find some new jazz music? Or is the jazz music I've got just right for Wine Wednesday? Should I mix up the background? Is the barrel room a good look for Wine Wednesday? Or should Wine Wednesday get a little bit of a pizzazz, a little bit of a sprinkle to mix it up? Let me know in the chat. Should I mix it up, find a new background? And while you let me know in the chat below, I'm going to grab myself some more sangria. I have just discovered something. You should make a public playlist of my jazz mixes. I think that's possible. I use open source or I use Epidemic Sound. I think that's possible. It's definitely possible to mix up the jazz music, but I also use Epidemic Sound, so that's music that's I pay a subscription to be able to use the music in my live stream and my YouTube videos. So that's something that's available. I just learnt that you shouldn't put juices and pulps into an AeroPress. It makes an incredible mess. And that's something I'm going to have to go deal with in the kitchen because the pulp gets stuck in the filter for the metal grating. So yeah, no copyright music is another source of great music that I could add on there for jazz. But I think Epidemic Sound provide me with copyright licenses to be able to stream like this. This is much more delicious. I've added ice. So you might be able to... How close do I need to hold it for it to focus properly? I've added ice, so that's added into there as part of the experience. And it is clinking around. You the clinking. Got my noise gate on, so the clinking might not come through. How good is that? That will last and sip on for weeks and weeks and weeks and days and days and days. That is a delicious combination right there. Explain the smell. The smell and the taste. Does not help when I've got a blocked nose. And the ice, putting the ice in it mutes it as well. But because I know imagine kind of a mix of like oranges, strawberries, blueberries, all kind of mixed in together, all kind of thrown together as part of it. Because I've added orange juice, I've added rosé. So the orange juice is the orange smell. The rosé is giving me kind of the strawberry notes. And then kind of the blueberries from the Shiraz all come together. But it's much more muted because of the ice than it was previously. And the great version of this is non-alcoholic. You can get the ingredients from Woolworths McWigan Zero. So I was able to pick up the orange juice. I can find the McWigan Zero Rosé there as well, which is awesome. So the McWigan Zero Rosé is non-alcoholic. I've even seen them like in 7-Elevens. It was bizarre, in BP service stations. It's bizarre where they're starting to sell this, but it's non-alcoholic, alcohol-free. So it's a great alcohol-free alternative beverage to be able to drink responsibly in lockdown. And put your favorite fruit in there, mix it up, see how it goes, chill it down, serve it over ice. The key, I'll be really interested to see how this goes tomorrow after it's had a good chance to soak in. I'm also going to top up the Shiraz levels and I'm also going to top up the rosé levels because I think the orange juice taste at the moment is a bit overpowering for my liking. But thank you for tuning in to Sangria Saturday today as we look at the 12th wine of lockdown. Remember that wine is best enjoyed with friends and family, and I will see you in the next video or on the next live stream on Monday night to celebrate England's victory and celebrate football coming home. And with that, goodbye and enjoy the rest of your evenings this Saturday night. Bye everyone.